Welcome. I'm Santa Barbara Mayor Kathy Murillo. For the last 3 weeks, on behalf of our dedicated City Council and City staff, I've presented to you now 3 installments in a series of 5 short weekly COVID-related State of the City addresses. Before I delve into COVID-related city business, I feel it is my duty as your mayor to address our current national landscape head-on. Over the course of the last week, the videotaped arrest and death of a seemingly passive, middle-aged Midwestern Black man by force of a white law enforcement officer and his peers has become a tipping point that has fueled a solidified and collective voice of well-earned righteous indignation. In an instant, our public health conversation has taken a pause to confront a dialogue on race. My heart hurts for the circumstances in which we find ourselves. Most of us can never assume to know what it's like to walk in the shoes of Black America. Members of the marginalized community are rightfully scared and angry with the range of emotions. As a Latina, I share a glimpse of the disenfranchisement commonly experienced by our people of color. I express my deepest sympathies to the Floyd family and all Black Americans. We each grieve his death in our own way. Over the weekend, cities across our nation have become a flashpoint of civil unrest. Our local government stands in solidarity with those who choose the preordained right to peacefully protest. To mend wounds, anger must eventually be channeled into introspection, education, and action right here at home. I stand united with our regional NAACP. As a country, we must prevent what happened to George Floyd and countless other Black souls who have lost their lives in situations that are steeped in a system of institutional bias that is pervasive. FBI Director Christopher Wray said it best, opining, "The events following Floyd's death clearly illustrate how quickly public trust can be lost." I applaud Santa Barbara Police Chief Lori Luno for the courageous leadership to ensure simultaneous dialogue and action to address race in policing. I have seen firsthand how our police officers engage in compassionate policing. On a daily basis, they contribute to an authentic community relationship that solidifies the public trust. The agency provides enhanced technical training on important topics such as principal policing and implicit bias. Moreover, they engage local community members to participate in that training. I also want to thank the Santa Barbara Public Library for their contribution to promote a timely literary introspection on race and justice for all. It is through that self-dialogue we internalize varying perspectives and we learn to empathize with people different from us. The library has curated a list of more than 100 available books on the history of racism, anti-racist work, and how to talk with your child about race. It includes New York Times bestseller, How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. The book, purposefully confronting, points us toward liberating new ways of thinking about ourselves and each other. Each literary work can be checked out through the Santa Barbara Library's website via the Overdrive electronic catalog. Last, it is never too late, from young to old, to ask, how do I act on personal bias? How can I question my ingrained belief system? Those foundational questions can be properly engaged by way of formal education. As someone who has dedicated her work to today's youth, I call on regional educators to endorse an elementary through high school ethnic studies program. Ethnic studies provides a complex and truthful history of our country and the people who make up its society. Our students can take pride in their cultural identity and then engage in solution-oriented ways to thoughtfully address race as a subject matter. Unjust situations happen, even right here in Santa Barbara. We owe it to ourselves to account for our own individual culpability. We must always reach for a higher standard of racial equity. These words are not meant to be an end, but the beginning of a well-deserved dialogue to advance social equity in Santa Barbara. We owe it to tomorrow's future to break the cycle of today's bias. In addition to the somber events transfixing our nation, over the weekend, America reached yet another milestone with now more than 103,000 men, women, and children losing their lives to COVID-19. Our region is not immune to the pain. In Santa Barbara County, we've now lost at least 13 souls. Remember, we are in a marathon and not a sprint. The virus has not gone away, and we must remain vigilant. The virus continues to spread by way of both symptomatic and asymptomatic individuals. As you venture outside, you are only as safe as the safety precautions you take to minimize transmission. That is your personal responsibility. Everyone should be wearing a mask whenever possible. Your mask usage protects me, and my mask wearing protects you. It is a necessary symbiotic relationship to remain effective in slowing the spread. Keep that in mind, especially while taking in the sights within our community front porch, the State Street pedestrian promenade. The Santa Barbara City Council and I want to thank each of you for doing your part to follow public health directives and keeping with social distancing protocols. Your cooperation fuels a shared spirit and sense of duty to your neighbors. It's now been 2 weeks since we started the reopening process. And I want to thank each of you for your support in endorsing our speed and creativity to adapt. The city continues to implement and execute our plan to ensure health and safety in our public spaces. City staff is closely monitoring all those citywide aspects to balance public health goals with business financial stability. After the City Council and I ratified all of the preliminary recommendations brought to us by the city's COVID-19 Business Advisory Task Force, we allowed citywide food service businesses and retail to expand into portions of the public space and create a State Street pedestrian promenade. The next pressing question was, for how long? After a spirited debate, the city gave formal direction to city staff to sunset the summer expansion into the public space at the close of business on Labor Day, September 8th. That gives all stakeholders, from civic advocate to business owner, the opportunity to collect data, work out the rough spots, and formally decide if this grand experiment, and in what form, should continue. One of the newfound jewels of an innovative partnership that blends community and business has been the city's endorsement of a seasonal parklet. A parklet is a sidewalk extension that provides local businesses more space and amenities for customers. Usually, parklets are installed on parking lanes and use several parking spaces. Parklets typically extend out from the sidewalk at the level of the sidewalk to the width of the adjacent parking spaces. It's ideal for a business that has indoor space limitations due to new public health requirements for social distancing. City of Santa Barbara parklet design guidelines can be found on our city's website. Make sure you get prior authorization from the city's transportation manager before you start building. Each week, I salute one determined local business owner who is successfully navigating the phased reopening. A Santa Barbara native daughter hailing from Dos Pueblos High School, Kathy Shields, a mother of 4 boys, owns and operates family business Savoy Cafe and Deli, located at 24 West Figueroa Street. For the last 15 years, Savoy and their 36 customer service-centric employees have been a Santa Barbara one-stop shop staple of organic groceries, artisan food and wine, and homemade baked goods. During the pandemic, as an essential business, Kathy led efforts to institute a curbside pickup for a market box of organic foods, meats, and baked goods for clientele hungry for a taste of normal. Kathy and her husband, Paul, were the first in Santa Barbara to achieve authorized parklet status. The total build-out took more than 15 hours, but doubled their seating capacity. The buzz created such a positive vibe, and customers love it. Go have a seat and enjoy her iconic homemade turkey fritter with a slice of mouth-watering carrot cake. Kathy rolled up her sleeves after pandemic-related adversity and got even more creative. She is the perfect blend of entrepreneur and structural engineer. Kathy, on behalf of a grateful city, thank you for doing your part to lift up Santa Barbara. Since March 18th, our city's public works paving crew has paved the equivalent of 20 city blocks. The total value of their work is about $1.6 million. They've been helped by lower than normal traffic flow due to the stay-at-home order. This provides great value for the use of Measure C funds because the crew only uses Measure C funding for the asphalt and support services like sweeping, grinding, and tack spraying. On that note, street sweeping will resume June 15th. Street sweeping not only keeps our streets looking good, but also improves air quality and keeps trash and debris out of storm drains, creeks, and the ocean. Parking enforcement associated with street sweeping will also resume. Please observe all posted parking restrictions for street sweeping starting June 15th. Additionally, the city has started to enforce timed parking throughout the city. Make sure you abide by time limits for your parking space in the downtown corridor. It supports business by creating a parking turnover and creates an ease of access for patrons. I appreciate all city workers and their diligence to start up these needed programs. Remember, again, we are in a marathon and not a sprint. The virus is still with us and we must remain vigilant. Please wear a face covering and abide by public health directives, and we'll get through this together. Thank you, Santa Barbara, and rest assured, our city is dedicated to your health and well-being.